Hello there, Hidden Hermit, and look at this, Libra, amazing. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about Libra and how Libra relates to the tarot, or how tarot relates to Libra. And I've got a whole big airy thing going on here because Libra is the cardinal air sign. Everything's yellow, a little bit sickly perhaps, but never mind. I have some Nag Champa. Oh, look at that, that's awesome. Some Nag Champa incense on the go, just to make things smell nice. Of course, you can't smell it. You can't even see it. There you go. Just take my word for it. Yeah, you can't smell it, but I can. It's great. I've also got some nice Libran stones and rocks. Here's some lepidolite, which you know, is associated with your third eye and balance, and dealing with balance. Here is some green aventurine, again associated with balance and harmony, and some moonstone. Nice wee bit of moonstone there. That's associated with peace. Peace, yes, because peace is also associated with harmony, isn't it? I'm saying the word associated a lot. Never mind. So yeah, here we go. Here is Libra. Libra is clearly associated with the idea of balance and harmony. You've got these scales here, and indeed the constellation of Libra is, here's another Libra card, awesome, and you can't actually see the constellation on there, which is about right, because Libra, to be perfectly fair, in fact it's not unfair to say that Libra is quite an unremarkable constellation in the sky. It's quite faint. That the stars are, you know, you have difficulty seeing them unless it's a really dark night with no moon and no cloud, etc, etc, but it's definitely there, I can assure you. Now, going back to antiquity, Libra was actually a part of Scorpio back in the day, and in fact the kind of square shape of Libra that we now associate with the scales was actually the claws of Scorpio. I'm doing this, the claws of Scorpio, and that's quite interesting because Libra is a very paradoxical sign. There's a lot of conflict going on with Librans, I would say, and the fact that the star sign used to be a part of Scorpio, I think, lends itself to that, and now is also associated with Virgo. Virgo can be seen as the maiden holding the ear of corn, if you like, the ear of wheat rather, or it can also be seen as a goddess of justice holding the scales of Libra. So you've got these two constellations either side of Libra, sort of having this tug of war effort going on, just to sort of claim the constellation as their own. But Libra has been its own constellation since the 1st century, in the time of Julius Caesar. It was the Romans that gave it its own space in the sky, as it were, and there's a very good reason for that as well. The autumn equinox happens on the first day of Libra, and that idea of balance, where the sun, the day and the night are of equal hours, is very important. So Libra, yes, it is the cardinal air sign, and it goes from roughly, depending on what year, the 23rd of September to the 23rd of October in the tropical calendar. In the sidereal calendar, it's the 17th of October until some time in November. So yeah, so let's get talking about Libra, shall we? What else can I say about the constellation? Yeah, it was known as the claws of the Scorpion. It had quite a few names as well until the Romans settled on Libra and decided that was, I think, Cele and Jugum were a couple of the titles before Libra was settled on. And it was very important for Romans. They felt that the moon was in Libra when Rome was actually founded, and according to legend, that was in 753 BC. I'm just going to keep showing you these pictures of Libra. So, Libra in the tarot is, of course, signified by the card Justice, and in the Waite-Smith system this is card number 11, and indeed you have Lady Justice sitting on her throne with the sword of air and indeed the scales of justice. The planetary ruler of Libra is Venus, sharing Venus with Taurus. And again, it's quite important. The attributes really do make sense with Libra, although they do lend it to quite a lot of, like I say, conflict, and it's very paradoxical. Here's another Venus card. Venus is, of course, associated with love, relationships, harmony, art, and beauty. In the tarot, Venus is, of course, signified by the Empress, the divine feminine, and all the great things that come with that. So, you know, a nurturing, kind, generous spirit, maternal, very much looking out for other people, a little bit of vulnerability there as well, for good reason. But yes, so Venus and the Empress are the tarot associations. Now let's talk about Libra, shall we? So if you are a Libra, if your sun is in Libra, if your moon is in Libra, or indeed you are a Libra rising, meaning the constellation of Libra was poking over the eastern horizon when you came into the world, then some of these attributes may seem very, very, very familiar to you. So Libras tend to be kind of elegant, cool people. They're sensible and even-tempered. They're quite observant, and they're amicable. They're diplomatic when they need to be, or when they want to be. They're always seeking serenity, and yes, because of that Venus element, they have a very good. They love art. They love music. They love things that are, have culture, high culture, low culture, whatever, low art, high art. But they have an appreciation for those sorts of things. They have a good social sense. Generally, they're easygoing. They're graceful. That air element very much lends itself to a lot of intelligence. They're smart. They can be very, very charming, just like Gemini, just like Aquarius. Because of the Venus element, they can be very flirtatious. But yeah, they're always seeking balance. They're always seeking balance, and that means they seek out opposing points of view. They try not to jump to conclusions, and they do want to be liked. There is an element of that, but yeah, because of their intelligence, they're good at debating. They're good at applying reason to situations, to people's lives, their own lives. Indeed, they can be objective. They're thoughtful. They're harmonious, and they're good at moderation. Which serves them well, because some of the I'm going to show you some other cards while I'm just rabbiting on. I'll just show you some justice cards. So yeah, if Libra is in a bad mood, if some of their negative traits, they can worry a lot. They can suffer from a lack of confidence. Because they're very close to Virgo. You know, if you're a Libra sun, there's a very good chance that you may have Venus or Mercury in Virgo, and that can make you very, very self-critical. They can get indecisive because they're trying to achieve balance in everything. If something doesn't quite go their way, then they can become uncertain, indecisive, to the point of paralysis even. And when they're in balance, when they're not doing things in moderation, they can become distant. They can paradoxically become argumentative. They need emotional and intellectual stimulation, and if they don't get it, then some of these negative traits will shine through, or rather bleed through, perhaps. Yeah, if they can't solve a problem, and they do see themselves as good problem solvers, if they can't solve a problem, then yeah, all these negative traits will again bleed through. They don't like injustice. They don't like seeing things when you know there are definite people at their detriment, and yet at the same time they don't like conflict. It's kind of weird. I can think of perhaps Gandhi and also John Lennon. They were both Librans, and you know you associate these people with their humanitarian causes and speaking out for the you know the guy or the girl in the street, as it were, but they weren't comfortable doing it. Librans can also change their minds quite a lot because they're always weighing up the factors into the situation, and yeah, it can cause a little bit of conflict. So I've been showing you some cards, but so yeah, let's talk about the fact that Libra is indeed an air sign, which is of course signified by the suit of swords in the tarot. Here is the Ace of Swords. Here is the alchemical symbol for air. very dynamic. It's just like fire, but with a line through it. And yes, so the air in astrology and in tarot are all dealing with things of the mind, the intellect, logic, reason, communication, things that happen in your head and how they manifest, how they come out your mouth, if you like. Here is another air card. And, you know, it's really funny because, of course, water is signified by the colour blue, but the colour blue is everywhere. I mean, look at it. And whenever I think of Libra, I always think of the colour blue. I don't know why. I don't know why. It might be because a lot of the cards that are happening are indeed blue. But that's by the by. That's just me being a little bit foolish. So, yeah. Let's revisit these tarot things. So here's the Justice card. And Justice in the tarot is very much exactly the same as everything I've been saying about Libra. If Justice comes up in a reading, and here's the Waitsmith Justice card. She's sitting on a throne. She's got the sword of air and the scales of justice there. If Justice comes up in a reading, then it could very well mean that there is a situation that requires a little bit of balance, that something may be off kilter, especially if it comes out reversed. Then, you know, something could be imbalanced, something could be a situation or a dynamic in your life could very well need a little bit of application to achieve that harmony. And the interesting thing about Justice, you know, reversals, they don't really change the idea of the card. It all depends on, of course, what cards comes out at either side of it. Before I talk about top, here is the Night Sun Justice, and unusually it's a guy, and usually it's signified by a woman, because the goddess of justice in so many cultures is indeed a woman. My featured deck for Libra is the Naked Heart tarot, and this is the Justice card here. And what I really like about this card is Libra is the only sign of the zodiac that isn't signified by something that's alive, something that's living. You know, it's not an animal, whether mythical or not. And it's not a person or people. Libra is indeed an object, the scales there. And yet in tarot, it generally is a person. I'll just flip back to the Night Sun and show you side by side with the top deck. It's incredibly similar. So let's look at the top deck. Everything is in balance in this card. Everything. You got the Alpha, the Omega. All the colours are in balance. You know, you can put it which way, and you can put a mirror down it, and it will look very much the same. And of course, the top deck goes back to the original attribution, where Justice was card number 8. Arthur Waite did indeed flip them round when he rectified the tarot and swapped it with strength, lust, or desire, depending on which discipline you're coming from. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. This is not really a part of the conversation at this point. But yeah, the adjustment card in the top deck, it gives everything that Libra really signifies, and just that idea of balance and how important balance is. So yeah, let's talk about Venus again. Or rather the Empress. I've just got 2 Empress cards here, and it's the Empress. Venus is I mean, it's the planetary ruler. Saturn is actually exalted in Libra, and the Sun is in their detriment. The Sun is in its full, Mars is in the detriment. So all those big fiery things are of a lesser nature in Libra, and that's possibly because Mars and the Sun, they very much it's about that application of force. It's about your personality. It's those things that really move forward. And yet Libra doesn't need that. Libra wants a little bit of harmony and balance. And the Venus's influence does bring this idea of love and beauty and a generous thing, and also partnerships, which I'll mention a little bit later. But yes, very, very important. There's not much more I can say about the Empress, because she's been covered before in other videos, but she's a lovely woman. You know, she's the archetypal, she's the sacred or the divine feminine, the archetypal feminine nature. We all need a bit of an Empress in us, I believe. So yeah, so I've already mentioned that Libra is the cardinal air, which means it is the astrological sign that begins at the triplicity of the air signs. So for example, in actuality, Libra is the beginning. So Librans are very good at starting things. They're very good at grasping new ideas and running with them. That cardinal idea, that idea of being first. And indeed, Libra is the first sign of autumn. It is in complete opposition with the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, and yeah, again, the cardinal attributes of the air elements, it does really conflict with some of the other things going on with Libra. But this will become apparent, I hope, when we talk about the decan cards. First of all, let me just say that Libra and Venus rule the 7th house, and the 7th house really does think about your partners, and the go-to idea of that is romantic partners, your husband, your wife, your lover, but it doesn't just mean that. It means partners in any sort of dynamic, from friendships to business. It could be your work colleagues, so it's all about partnerships. However, marriage is another thing that is covered by the 7th house, as well as legal matters. Now, if you are a serious tarot reader, you are encouraged not to delve too much in legal matters, because that's what lawyers are for. So unless you're a lawyer and a tarot reader, then it's possibly something that you should only broach upon. The 7th house also deals with public enemies. Not to be confused with the very awesome hip-hop act Public Enemy. Or you never know, maybe they do identify with the 7th house, I don't know. But yeah, so it's people who are in opposition to you in a public way, as opposed to secret enemies. So yeah, that's the 7th house. So let's talk about the 3 decans. Let's talk about the, if you split Libra up into 3, into the 10 degrees each, we are covering the first 3 cards, and not including the ace of the suit of swords. So first of all, we're talking about the 2 of swords, and here is the 2 of swords. And the 2 of swords, it's such an evocative image, and it's such a perfect image. Out of these 3 cards, so the first decan of Libra is from the 23rd of October to about the 23rd of September to the 2nd of October. So 0 to 10 degrees Libra. And it's the moon in Libra. And in the Waite-Smith card, you do indeed have a very moony moon up in the sky there. You've got this idea of Lady Justice, again, with a blindfold on with 2 swords. Now, the interesting thing here, how do we get to the 2 of swords? So the moon in Libra. So if we think about the moon is signified by the High Priestess. And Libra is, of course, justice. So that plus that equals that. And it makes perfect sense here. It makes perfect sense. This could be very much a High Priestess figure, or indeed Justice herself. It could be either. The 2 swords as opposed to the 1 is because it's the 2 of swords, obviously. But again, you know that it's air. You've also got quite a lot of water going on here. Again, lending to the fact that the moon is an influence in this card. Now, the very important thing about this is this woman is blindfolded. So this could mean, if it comes up in a reading, it could mean all sorts of different things. But I think my go-to interpretation is the idea of tapping into your intuition, tapping into that inner light that guides you when rational things, when information is not so apparent, if you like. So I do believe that if you were to blindfold the High Priestess, you would very much get the vibe of the 2 of swords. So maybe a situation is out there that has something's been kept from you, perhaps something maybe has been kept secret from you, and you have to use your guts, use your intuition to maintain that balance, or to indeed get the balance back, because the 2s and all the suits are all about balance and things being in and out of balance. And the 2 of swords is it really is the crux of it, if you like. So let's look at a few more 2 of swords. In the Tot system, or in the Hermetic system, this is called Peace, the Lord of Peace. And the idea that the moon with its waxing and waning nature can bring a peaceful element to, you know, it helps Librans restore that balance, if you like. It's quite a simple card here. I do love how you got the Sword of Swords and the moon at the top there. Some nice, everything's structured and in balance again in the Two of Swords in the top deck. I really like that. If we look at the Night Sun deck, here is the Night Sun. Again, that idea of things being in balance. You can't see it on, well, maybe you can. You got two air elements there. These two figures, one dark-skinned, one light-skinned, one male, one female. Everything is the same. Everything is in balance. And again, so that idea of, you know, if it came out reversed, maybe something is imbalanced. If it came out like this, maybe things are in balance, and you can achieve that peace, if you like. If we were to look at the Naked Heart one, again, there's the moon. The moon's the one thing that's not in balance in this card. And this interesting idea of an anchor, tying things together, keeping things solid, if you like. Of course, if the anchor is on the top, then something's clearly not right. And, you know, yeah, that's going to happen, really, isn't it? So, yeah, the Two of Swords, all about achieving harmony, achieving balance, struggling to do that sometimes, and things being hidden from you. The court card ruler of the Two of Swords is the Queen of Swords, and the Queen of Swords is almost Libra. She's a really mature Libran, I would say. That the Queen of Swords is somebody who has seen a lot of hardship along her path, and this has made her the person that she is. This means that she has really strong boundaries. She knows what she wants. She knows what she doesn't want because of the hardship she's been through. In old fortune-telling traditions of the tarot, she often signified somebody who is perhaps widowed or divorced, or indeed separated from a lover, and kind of harsh because of it, to be perfectly fair. But that's only because of what she's seen. Again, the Queen of Swords is holding aloft a sword, just like Justice. They could almost be the same person, really. Queen of Swords and the Waitsmith is also seen in profile. There's a lot going on in the Queen of Swords. I don't think I've really got time to go through it all here, but, you know, there's the idea of the clouds in the background is telling you that it's associated with air. You've got this butterfly down here, so something has changed, if you like. Something has evolved, even. You've got clouds on here. You've got butterflies on her crown as well. This bird in the sky also kind of lends itself to a certain intelligence. Yeah, the Waitsmith. So much symbology in there that you really have to unpick. But the Queen of Swords, awesome woman. Awesome woman. So that's the Two of Swords. If we were to take these away, let's talk about the Three of Swords. So the Three of Swords is the second decan of Libra, from approximately the 3rd of October to the 12th of October. 10 to 20 degrees Libra, and it's the Three of Swords. Now, the Three of Swords, I believe I have said this elsewhere on other forums. There will be a video at some time, but the Three of Swords, I think, is a crazy enigma. Again, quite paradoxical, just like Libras themselves. The Three of Swords, people or see the Three of Swords and intuitively say heartbreak. Now, I actually disagree, to be perfectly honest. I mean, yes, of course, it can mean heartbreak. It can, that could be one of the many meanings, but how you get to this heartbreak is the way that I interpret it, if that makes sense. It makes sense to me. So yes, in the Waitsmith image, you have this bright heart, which I believe is the Venus influence, and it's skewered by the Three Swords. Now, again, these Three Swords are in balance. You've got clouds as well, and you've got rain falling down, and it basically, I'll cut to the chase, so there's me waffling on, but I always feel that the Three of Swords is when your logic, your mind, your reason is overruling your heart. So your emotional life wants one thing, but your brain is a little more disciplined and tells you that actually, no, that is not the case, and you have to come to that realization. That is the cause of the sorrow and the heartbreak. That's what I feel. Okay, so, but yes, if you do an intuitive reading and this comes up in a love reading, for example, then it could very well mean heartbreak. But why have you got to heartbreak? Now, I mentioned the idea of discipline, and that's because the Three of Swords is Saturn in Libra. Saturn is indeed signified by the world in the tarot. So the world plus justice equals the Three of Swords. Now this is going to seem like a little bit of a stretch, but going back to this idea of the airy, swordy element intruding on that love and beauty element of Venus. In fact, we could almost do that. Will get you the Three of Swords, and Saturn is indeed he's the ruler of discipline, of restriction. Yeah, a lot of people do say that Saturn is quite a negative influence, but he can also be very, very positive. Okay, so the idea of the Three of Swords, that your brain, your logical mind is overruling your emotions, it's probably for a good reason as well, to be perfectly honest. So that's Saturn giving that strong influence there. And Saturn is, of course, exalted in Libra, meaning when Saturn pops up in Libra, he's perfectly happy to be there, and Libra's like, phew, a little bit of discipline, a little less of this sort of going around being all flighty and flirty, perhaps. Saturn comes along and brings back order to the Libran ideal, if you like. That's why Saturn's quite happy there. So that's how I think you get these to that. Let's look at a few more. So in the top deck, the Three of Swords is indeed called sorrow. And again, you could say sorrow, you could say heartbreak. It really doesn't matter either way. The cause of this sorrow is the discipline. And I love all these dark colours really imposing itself on the Three of Swords. You've got two swords at the top here that are bent. They're bent out of shape, and yet they are in balance. So yeah, you've got this dark discipline coming down on the Libran ideal, the Libran and the Venus ideal, I believe, and it's bringing that sense of sorrow because of it. It's a kind of a realization in a way, if that makes sense. Here's the Night Sun. Again, you've got that motif of the heart being skewered by the mind, but again, everything is in balance. This is how things, this realization that you've come to, if it comes up in a reading, this is how things should be. This is why it's happening like that. It's not because of some sort of extenuating circumstance that has caused this heartbreak. It's not because of anything irrational. Your rational mind has brought you to this conclusion, and that's actually right. Now, if the Three of Swords comes out reversed, then maybe that balance that Saturn's bringing to the table, if you like, is not quite complete, or he's kind of overdone it, perhaps. And indeed, so maybe your emotions are still got a little bit more weight, or indeed maybe the mind has just run with the idea, and that's causing you even more conflict than what. Well, like I say, that everything's in balance. There isn't a great deal of conflict there. It's just sorrow and heartbreak because things have been brought back into balance. And again, I appreciate that that's just one very quite particular way of looking at the card. But when it comes up in a reading for me, that's my starting point, if you like. That's where I try and unpick the spread. That's how I try and get to it. Here's the Naked Heart card. A very striking image, incredibly similar. I also like the idea of feathers on the swords here, again giving you that idea that this is an airy nature. But there's nothing here to contradict what I've already said. Instead of a heart, it's a heart-shaped rib cage, the thoracic region, and again, it's exactly the same meaning, I believe. So yeah, and just going back to the Night Sun, yeah, as you may well know, that it is very challenging, and it can give you a different idea of things, perhaps, but it's a very much in vibe with everything else going on here, I feel. So that's you could talk about the Three of Swords forever. You really could. And there will indeed be a video all about it one day. And I kind of think that I've already done it, but I don't know, something's imbalanced in my head. So that's the Three of Swords, the second decan. Yep, Queen of Swords is indeed the court card ruler again, and I've always liked to bring out another Queen of Swords card. This is the Knight's on deck. Interestingly, the one thing I love about this is you've got this heart in a cage down there, which, you know, it could very much lend itself to that Three of Swords as well. But yeah, so there's the Queen of Swords, not taking any nonsense from anybody. Awesome. So moving on to the final decan, the third decan of Libra, and we get to the Four of Swords, obviously because 4 comes after 3. Now, the Four of Swords, again, we're coming back to this idea of things being a little bit counterintuitive and a little bit off kilter, I think. I love the Four of Swords. I love it so much. The first thing that you see are the Four Swords, 3 above 1. Things have certainly happened where this guy needs a little bit of a rest. Now, I appreciate that the guy very much looks like a statue on a tomb. I can appreciate that, but I love the idea of the 3 swords up here have been very oppressive to the guy down here, and is like, actually no, I'm just going to take my cue from the 4th sword, which is horizontal there, and just have a little bit of a rest. Now, something that I've noticed quite recently, despite the fact that I've had a Waitsmith deck for years and years and years, is the stained glass window up in the top corner here, top left-hand corner, and you have somebody protracted, maybe on their knees, looking up to, I mean, obviously it's a stained glass window, so it could very well lend itself to a little bit of Christian Catholic iconography. But what I find really interesting about this is you have this person here and this person on their knees there, and there's something straight down the middle. So when the Four of Swords comes up, I do kind of sense that the rest that is needed is because there has been some sort of separation or conflict, or something that has driven a wedge between the querent or seeker, who could very well be this person, and the situation at hand. And again, that could be one way of looking at it, but it's, like I say, it's something that I've come to quite recently, and I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. The Four of Swords is Jupiter in Libra, and Jupiter is signified by the Wheel of Fortune. Now, on the Wheel of Fortune, the Wheel of Fortune, when it comes up in a reading, could mean many things. It could mean your fortunes are changing. It could be telling us that life isn't all a steady stream, if you like. Life isn't a straight path. Things will go up and down. Things will go backwards and forwards. Things will be bad and things will be good. And I think the Four of Swords in general is suggesting that you're at the rest part of the cycle. You're at the part where you need to just take a breather, have a lie down. And I realise that can be a little bit counterintuitive, because Jupiter does signify things like abundance and fulfillment. It's very benefic usually. So when Jupiter rocks along in the sign of Libra, then maybe, I mean, it could mean quite a few things, you know, but maybe you've come to this cycle, you need some rest, and maybe you're coming to the end of the rest cycle and you need to get up and go again. But yeah, kind of counterintuitive, I think, because of Jupiter's influence. Now, as a point of interest, as I get these other cards out, point of interest, Jupiter, I'm making this video in October 2018. Now, Jupiter's really helpful because it stays in a sign for 1 year. Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the planet, and we're just coming to the end of a Libra cycle. So if you were born, so, you know, it's 2018, so either you're 0, 12, 24, 36, 48, etc., etc., you may have had quite a good year. You may have had a year where things seem to be going quite well. Conversely, if you have Jupiter in Aries on the opposite side of the zodiac, you may well have had a bit of a rocky year. You may well have had things that have, you know, you may be on the bottom end of the Wheel of Fortune, if you like. But yeah, Jupiter brings an interesting influence into Libra. Things get put back into balance or out of balance depending on where Jupiter is in your chart. Moving on swiftly. So here's the top deck, and this idea of truce. Again, notice how things are always in balance in the top deck when the Libra cards, if you like, and everything again is suggesting a sense of balance. But the truce is the key word in the top deck, the Lord of Truce. Again, I think it's quite simply suggesting that you need to have a break. It's that easy. If we look at the Night Sun here, slightly different imagery. Now, the way I see it is this woman. She's walking along on stilts, these sword stilts, and she's been very, very careful. She's trying to tread quite lightly, and she's putting a lot of focus on where she's putting her feet, on where the swords are going. The terrain isn't exactly flat. Again, this idea of how life isn't a straight path, life isn't a flat surface, and she's just being very, very, very careful as to how she navigates it. And that's where her focus is. She's not looking above, she's not looking left or right, she's focusing on being very, very careful. And again, you know, that could very much lend itself to this idea of just taking a little bit of a rest, as opposed to going full steam ahead, which again is a little bit counterintuitive to the cardinal idea of the sign of Libra, the cardinal air sign. And this could very well be because Jupiter in Libra is the third decan, so we're thinking about the 13th of October to the 22nd of October. So it's the mutable part of the cardinal air sign, and we're approaching the fixed water sign of Scorpio. There's going to be that influence coming into that. So yeah, that could very well be another influence to the Four of Swords, the fixed emotional sign. So here is the Naked Heart, very, very similar, again to the Waitsmith. 3 swords above 1, and this cat is asleep. It's nice to see a cat on a card, but yeah, I don't think there isn't a great deal you can really bring to the table. Like I say, the reason I used this deck was because of the Venus influence. It's a very pretty deck. I will probably do a showcase at some point, but yeah, it's a nice deck. It's a nice deck. But again, this idea of this cat taking a nap, taking a little bit of a rest before it goes and finds some mice, perhaps, maybe. The Court card ruler of the third decan of the Four of Swords is the King of Cups. And the King of Cups is indeed associated with that emotional life of the fixed sign of Scorpio, which is of course coming up next. And yeah, so the King of Cups is kind of a benevolent chap when he's well dignified. He likes his arts, his crafts, his culture, so he would probably get along quite well with the Empress. That Venus influence again is yeah, I think it's lending itself well to the King of Cups. The King of Cups is sitting on a throne here amidst quite a tumultuous emotional thing, but he's kind of steady. He's tapping into that Libra energy of being steady and balanced. Once he comes into Scorpio, things change a little bit, but that's obviously a conversation for another video. So yeah, see you later, King of Cups. See you next time. So yeah, that is Libra. That is Libra, keeping things in balance, being awesome by doing that. And again, it's a very, very paradoxical sign, I feel. Because there's a lot of conflict in there. Because Venus is ruling you get that cardinal idea, which is a little bit fiery, conflicting with the Venus idea of love, beauty, with that airy element of intellect and reason, and these 3 influences all come together and well, yeah, I can see it's the one thing that's missing, of course, is something that's going to ground you. But there you go, that's Libra for you. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that helps. I am indeed the Hidden Hermit. Thank you. See you next time.